Oh, welcome back, college basketball fans, to Hoops HD Under the Radar podcast on the day before Thanksgiving here.
You got to
I'm
get
your
me out of
host,
here, Chad.
Chad Sherwood, John Sleek over there, and down there back in the puppet bunker, David Griggs. David,
You got to get
what's
me
going
out
on?
of here, Chad. Well, yeah. Well, you got to get me out of here.
We've got a lot to get through here, which is not going to involve like David out, I don't think. But let's start like we like to do. And just for those of you that are new to Under the Radar, or those of you that just like to hear us discuss at this top of every show, John, can you tell everyone what it means to be under the radar?
Under the radar means you are not a member of the 10 major multi-bid conferences, which would be the Power 5 conferences, along with the Big East, the Atlantic 10, the American, and the West Coast Conference. And it also means you cannot be in the top 25 like Buffalo would be at the present time, since they are considered on the radar.
Right. And so that means that games like the incredible Gonzaga-Duke game we saw today, not going to be discussed. It means this fact that we got another potential Final Four preview in Kansas and Tennessee coming up Thursday, not going to discuss it.
Right. So if you want like basketball like that, like real basketball, this show isn't for you.
No,
This
absolutely
is
not.
Under the radar. The regular one bid leagues. Although maybe
we are about events like the Gulf Coast Showcase.
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to talk about things like even the American Conference and James Wiseman's unicorns like this, no, that is not on this show. No unicorns.
Yeah, and although I know we're going to get to this, but a couple under the radar teams out of the gate quickly, maybe not so many one bid leagues, or maybe a couple of them won't be one bid leagues.
Well, of course, it is still only November 21st. There's a long way to go, and a lot of these teams that are out to great starts may come crashing back down. But we like to start with a feature conference, and we like to put some up on the screen there, the scores and the standings and the like. So let's go ahead and put the standings up. And I don't think it's going to be any surprise what our feature conference is tonight, the Southern Conference. There it is. And what can we say about the Furman Paladins, other than maybe they should be in the top 25 and not on the show?
Right. Well, that's what you can say about them. I mean, they go out there and they win at Loyola, and Loyola struggling again tonight, maybe not as good as we thought, but still, I don't think Loyola lost but one home game all of last year, and it may not have even been that many. Either they don't lose at home very much. They were in the Final Four. They followed that up with a win at Villanova at the Pavilion, where they never lose to anyone. And I guess that just wasn't enough for the voters. But, yeah, Furman out of the gate, exploding out of the gate. And when you look at, like, what they've done here, the 2 wins away from home, and then here we go. How about that win against Uncle Bob Jones?
Bob Jones, they beat Southern Wesleyan tonight. According to RPI right now, and RPIs are very skewed this early in the season, Gardner-Webb is their best win. But really, I mean, at Loyola, at Villanova, at 2 Final Four teams. John, I don't recall it ever happening for a team winning on the 2 true road games against teams that were in the Final Four last year in the first 2 weeks of the season.
You would think it would happen on occasion where 2 teams from the same conference would make the Final Four, but the kicker here is winning on the road against 2 said teams, which I have not been able to find any evidence of such.
Yeah, and I've double-checked and triple-checked their schedule, David. They do not play Kansas or Michigan this year and during the regular season, so we can't get
which
all
is
four.
well, they had to make room for Bob Jones, and you and I have been railing on that. Well, all of us, like all 3 of us, have been railing on this for years. Don't schedule games like that, for Christ's sake.
Well, there they are, and it's not. And Furman was not the team we were targeting in this conference end of the season. That was the team that's currently sitting there 3-2, kind of in the middle of the conference there. Wofford now. 2 very quality losses for Wofford against Oklahoma and North Carolina, but
North Carolina was quality despite being at home. I was honestly expecting them to beat Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma appears to be the bigger program as far as the brand goes, but I thought Wofford clearly had the better team going into that game. I was actually kind of surprised they didn't come out of that with a win.
But didn't we see Oklahoma pick up a big win today out in Atlantis? So Oklahoma may be better than we thought they were.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and after the win they got today, to beat Wofford and pick up the win they got today down in Atlantis, it is looking like they are better than we thought.
And we still haven't even mentioned the defending champion from last year, and that's UNC Greensboro, who leads at least the predictive metrics and still very respectable as far as their resume-based metrics.
Yeah,
so
they're
far,
really good, and it's kind of, with all the noise that Furman's made, kind of quiet for them to be 4-1. Sanford up there at 5-1, but it's a really weak 5-1. I don't think they're going to stay up there, but nevertheless, that was the team that we thought would come in last, and they won 5 of their first 6.
Well, and actually, their one loss was last night to Ohio State. They were in that game most of the game. They gave Ohio State a challenge. Here's the upcoming schedule, though, in the Southern Conference for next week. Where can we find Furman there? They're at Asheville. That's their game. I mean, Furman doesn't really have another challenge, I don't think, until they play LSU in late December. So,
right.
So
they should win out until then. And then how about that one right there? We've got Greensboro going to Greensboro. That is a tough place to play.
Yeah, I mean that's a real true road test real true road test for non-D1 Greensboro College there, John.
That's why they had the test against the law firm of Johnson and Wales earlier in the week.
Actually, the game I'm circling here is on Saturday, Greensboro and Louisiana Tech, though.
That's a great one. La Tech with two that's probably one of the games of the week in under the radar as far as that goes because of what Louisiana Tech's been able to do this year.
I guess on that note, let's kind of turn back to go through the rest of these under the radar conferences, starting them off as we like to do in the America East, where Vermont picked up a nice win tonight at home over Yale, a Yale team that already beat Cal this season. So I still like this Vermont team best, even though they've got a couple losses on the resume.
Well, their losses are Louisville and Kansas. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's, you can't be too worried about that.
And even a team like Louisville, it actually looked pretty respectable in their game in the preseason NIT. But, again, different show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
how about and then Stony Brook? I know we talked about them last week, but they got out of the gate quick with 2 wins on the road. South Carolina and what turns out to be not a very good George Mason team.
They also lost the game to Holy Cross. That was their one loss. And I guess you got to also talk about UMBC, the team of the season last year in the NCAA tournament, and lost to South Dakota this week. Kind of a little
bit of a letdown. So.
Upcoming this week, though, in the America East, I've got no idea what's coming up, but David, I'll let you discuss it all here, all these exciting games.
Stony Brook at Rhodey, another chance for them to pick up a notable win. I don't know how much the committee is going to like that, but it is a chance for them. That's probably one of the ones I got my eye on. And then Bucknell and Vermont, 2 teams that are typically tops of their conferences, sort of in rebuild mode this year, but going at it.
And Vermont with a bye game on the road at George Washington.
Yes, in Vermont taking and again, you can't be scheduling non-D1 games like that.
Well, at least they're going on the road for the non-D1 game, right? John, the A-Sun is the other conference that produced the big storyline this week, and from that team that's currently 4-1 overall, the Lipscomb Bison, after losing the Battle of the Boulevard at home to Belmont, which was understandable, it is the rivalry game, but they go out on the road to Texas, win at SMU, and then win at a very good TCU team.
Yep, so they go 2 for 2 in the Metroplex, and they'll still get another shot at Lipscomb in a couple weeks, so a little bit of a mixed bag for the Bison here.
Yeah, I mean, if they had won that game, we may be talking them as much as we're talking Furman right now, David.
Probably so, yeah. And it raises the question, how good is Belmont? Because if you watch that game, it was a really good game, and I'm looking forward to the next one even more now.
Yeah, that was fun, but I think this Lipscomb team is going to end up running away with this conference from what I've seen of them so far. I mean, how can you not say that if they win at SMU and at TCU? Upcoming schedule, they're at Moorhead this week, and I think that's their only game this week for the Bison.
Yeah, a little bit not in a holiday tournament, which it seems like there's fewer teams that aren't in those than what are. So, I guess they get to go home for Thanksgiving or something.
Let me go back to the standings one more time here, the schedule one more time, and talk about one other team, though. Florida Gulf Coast went and picked up a home win over what we thought was a very good South Dakota State team, then goes into the Gulf Coast Classic and finishes dead last, 8th place, goes 0 for 3, including a loss to San Antonio today. I don't know what happened to that team. I thought they were good suddenly, and then just imploded this week.
At times like this, I miss the old sad trombone we had from our old Google soundboard.
Yeah.
So really, I think that may speak more to South Dakota State, which we'll get to in a little while here. But over in the Big Sky Conference up next, we've got a couple of undefeated teams, and that Northern Colorado, at least in Joby's nitty-gritty rankings, just continuing to nail high numbers that I don't understand.
Well, yeah, they've won one game, one D1 game. I guess you can't say that they've played a lot of weak teams.
They're actually up right now as we record this. They're up on the road at Incarnate Word, so they could pick up a road win. Maybe they'll move up even higher than number 5.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Joby's and I really like Joby's rankings, and one of the reasons they're out of whack is because there's nothing presumptuous about them at all. And you got to figure that that's going to kind of get to a state of normalcy the more it goes along. But as of now, yeah, I mean, they've beaten teams that haven't lost many games.
But by the same token, you also have a team like Sacramento State that's had a game postponed because of smoke from the wildfires.
Right, but John, I want to ask you about the Montana team. We like them. They lost during their exempt event to I think it's a pretty good Georgia Southern team, though.
I lost to a Georgia Southern team. They also had a win against Georgia State earlier in the year, so you could say 1-1 Sun Belt record, but I still think Montana is going to be the team to beat in the conference here.
I'd agree with you. And let's take a look at what we got coming up in this Big Sky this week. And speaking about, let's see here, I don't know anything. John, you going to watch any of these games?
Benedictine at Weber State.
Benedictine, yeah, those are the monks, right? Right, David?
Yeah, I think so. The monks.
They make brandy, and no.
Yeah.
But I also like the back-to-back games for Northwest Nazarene, where they go to Idaho and then host Portland State on Saturday.
They're actually hosting that game?
Unless your standing sheets are incorrect.
We'll have to double check on that. The Northwest Nazarene with a home game against Portland State potentially. We'll double check on that. That might be a good feature game for you there, John. That might be a mistake though. We've screwed many things up here.
Right. Just tonight alone.
The Big South Conference. Radford had picked up wins, lost a game to Duquesne, beat Notre Dame. This is the best team. They picked up a nice road win at William & Mary actually last night, David, though.
Yeah, I think they are the best team. Longwood, perhaps the best story. Not used to seeing them get out. I mean, we normally don't see them finish in the top 8. Here they are out to a 4-1 start with 3 D1 wins and some on the road. So their only loss coming to a Charlotte, and while a sloppy game, a game that they led most of the way in. So is there more life in Longwood than what we're used to seeing?
All right. Also, always got to keep an eye on Campbell with Chris Clemens there, one of the best players, although I don't think he has got enough pieces around him to challenge Radford.
Right.
Upcoming schedule for that Radford team should be popping up on the screen right here. And John, I guess they're hosting Hampton. No, that's Hampton at Richmond. Where are they? They're hosting Glenville.
Unfortunately, another non-D1 game, and we're going to have to brush off the 10 commandments for some of these under-the-radar teams here.
Let's just keep going here. This is ridiculous. Let's get to a conference that actually wants to bother playing games that'll count. How about the Big West? We actually saw – let's talk Big West. Let's talk about UC Irvine. David made a great run, but lost tonight to Toledo in the championship game of the was that the Gulf Coast Showcase?
Gulf Coast Showcase, yeah. And again, it was, if you were watching that game, you were one of 100. There were 101 viewers according to the counter by the end of the game. So UC Irvine led for most of it, and it was a real nice comeback by Toledo. We'll get to that in a second. I still really like this Irvine team. I think that they can win 25 plus. I still think that they have an outside shot at getting inside the bubble, although their win at A&M not looking as good as it did at the time. But still,
the win against Tulane is still a non-under-the-radar win, at least. Also,
and
call it that.
Right, but is it the kind of win that the committee will look at and be like, "Oh man, that kind of sets them apart"? I mean, when you look at Furman, they've got 2 monster wins. UC Irvine's really aren't up there yet.
Well, let's see what UC Irvine's got coming up here. Let's get their schedule up here. Utah State, who's made a little bit of noise so far this season. At Butler.
Yeah, this game coming up at St. Mary's is pretty big. Butler getting beat tonight by Dayton pretty badly.
That's not a good loss to an under-the-radar team.
Yeah. But lots of road games, if you see that, that's one of the things, well, the committee of old would like. I don't know about the current one.
Yeah, at Eastern Michigan, who may or may not have life. We'll talk about them again. We talked about them on Monday night. We may mention them again here in a minute. But let's take a look at some of the other upcoming games for this week itself, at least in the Big West.
Yeah, right there, we've
got Hawaii playing Utah. That's part of one of the events, I think, that's going on.
That UC Irvine at St. Mary's game, that's a week from the night. That's one I'm kind of looking forward to. UC Irvine not playing for another week. They were in that exempt event, and then they get a week off.
Let them go enjoy their Thanksgiving. Come on, David.
Yeah. But in the meantime,
okay, go ahead. Quick segment here, just since there's no order here whatsoever. Long Beach State, Chad wanted to talk about teams that played real teams. Long Beach State, let's just pull up their schedule and see what Dan Monson has done this year.
Okay, let's go ahead and find Long Beach State. I'll pull it up here on the right side so we can compare them to a team like Irvine. There we go. They've lost at Arizona State. They lost at UCLA. They lost at Mississippi State. They beat Iona.
So that is insane as it normally is.
Upcoming schedule, Oregon State. They get them at home. And then at USC, they got at Fresno, at Pacific, at Stanford still to go. It's kind of a light schedule for them, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't nearly as impressive as what I was hoping for.
It's still a killer schedule by all means, but they played half the Pac-12.
They're not playing they're not playing half of the top 25 on the road the way they normally do.
I want to go back to the Hawaii at UCLA game here. Is this going to be a so-called bye game for UCLA, or is there going to be a home and home, or possibly 2-for-1 element involved here?
Well, John,
I don't know the contract on that one.
Yeah. But let's go ahead. I do not know that answer. We'll find out. It might be because teams like to take that trip to Hawaii.
You get an extra game because it's an exempt game.
Colonial, David, I know you've been pretty high on what Charleston has done so far.
Well, Charleston and James Madison, but particularly Charleston, they lost a couple big pieces, but they've made up for it nicely off to kind of a 3-1 start. And I haven't seen Delaware this year. They're out to a 4-1 start, but only 2-1 against D1. Are they for real, or are they just kind of pretenders at this point?
I don't think they've really played anybody at this point. Their win there is Cornell was one of their 2 wins. The other one, I don't think it's even on the screen. It came early in the season. I don't think Delaware is for real. No, I don't think they are.
But I do think one of the surprises here is James Madison actually losing at home to high-scoring Citadel. That's
what I was going to say. I don't know if that's where you're coming from for with James Madison, unless you're really high on Citadel also, David.
Not high on the Citadel, but College of Charleston, good. And then kind of a team that's been a letdown, glazing right over my praise of James Madison as if it never happened, is this Northeastern team. They've been kind of schizophrenic. Their 2 wins are pretty good, but their 3 losses kind of have you scratching your head.
Vatech and Davidson were 2 of the losses. They weren't awful losses. I'm scratching my head more at William and Mary. We'd already 1-4 now with the loss of Bradford. Also a loss at to University of Illinois Chicago. I thought this William and Mary team had a shot to contend this season.
Yeah.
The upcoming schedule in the Colonial, College of Charleston and LSU coming up on Thursday. That's in the first round of one of the tournaments that's starting.
The Advocare Invitational.
Yeah, kind of looking forward to that one.
They're going to be on the same half of the bracket as Florida State would be.
Yeah. Anything else, David, that really stands out at you here? I guess maybe that William and Mary Marshall game all the way up next Wednesday, but.
You got that Hofstra VCU. Well, more out of VCU's in, but Northeastern Davidson should be interesting.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to Conference USA, which has given us some of our highlights and some of our lowlights also in the season here. But Western Kentucky, despite 3-2, we're still very high on this team here.
Yeah, again, not playing at full strength just yet. They're getting everybody back, hopefully, by the end of the semester. And they do already have the win on a neutral floor against West Virginia. That's pretty good. UAB out to a 3-0 start with some bye wins. North Texas winning their exempt event. No heavyweights in that, but a real good start for the Mean Green.
Yeah, let's pull up that schedule here. The North Texas 7-0. I mean, 3 of them are non-D1, and then you got Eastern Shore and Maine, but
yeah,
7-0.
Right, and then they won at Hawaii. So, again, not a whole lot of meat, but, again, we're talking about North Texas. Still off to a much better than expected start. But the big team I like from this league is this Louisiana Tech team.
I like them. I'm still very high in this Marshall team, though, John, aren't you? I mean, I know they really haven't played much yet, but I think this team has a shot to be very good.
Well, it's certainly going to be one of the more entertaining teams, at least on the offensive end of the floor, and nothing that I've seen so far would suggest otherwise.
When you look at this league and you look at the new scheduling philosophy, I know it's early, but it's already starting to kind of fall in the place of to where this will really pay off, because look at the top 8 teams, and I know Middle Tennessee is getting absolutely destroyed at the moment we're recording this. But these are teams that are taking care of business, and they already have – it isn't all by-game wins either. These are typically the types of teams that get bought. Southern Miss getting a nice win on the road. It wasn't – where did they win? Not Wichita, but it was SMU.
At Troy.
Yeah. I think they went to SMU and won.
They won at SMU. Now they also followed that up with a loss in that exempt event to North Florida, where North Florida pounded them by about 20 points. So I'm not certain on Southern Miss yet.
Right. But, I mean, overall, a 4-1 start for a program that's kind of really having to pick itself up. La Tech, their only loss on the road at LSU, a game that seesawed back and forth, and they had a chance to win. FIU, a team that we weren't expecting anything out of, somehow out to a 3-1 loss. Florida Atlantic has some decent wins.
Florida Atlantic, they beat
Central Florida.
They beat UCF, who then turned around and won their exempt event. So, hey.
Yeah. So the Conference USA, they have Marshall, they have La Tech, and the teams that we kind of see at the top. But the difference this year is that the crap is actually not getting beaten when they play other crap.
Other than Texas San Antonio.
Yeah, other than UTSA. So.
And that non-D1 loss. But there is the upcoming schedule. Middle Tennessee, as we record this, is getting crushed by Virginia, as you mentioned. We've got UAB against Florida State tomorrow.
Yeah,
we've actually got a lot of games here that I'm kind of looking forward to. We already mentioned La Tech, Greensboro. We've got
Western Kentucky going up to Delaware.
I'm looking forward to Ave Maria at FIU.
Okay.
Then I'm just moving on to the next conference. I'm not even going to talk about, New Mexico State UTEP down there coming up next week or anything like that.
Good rivalry game, VCU, Old Dominion, and Old Colonial rivalry.
Let's go to the Horizon League. Another team off to a great start here. A team that we expected to win this conference, John, is this NKU team.
They're going to be one of the favorites, and they won their on-campus tournament with wins against Asheville and Manhattan over the weekend. Another team we were considering as a favorite is Wright State. They had a bit of a tough time down in Cancun with back-to-back losses to, I believe, Bradley and SMU at the buzzer tonight.
It was Penn State and SMU. SMU at the buzzer. Penn State at the opening tip is basically when they lost that one. Wright State, again, for the second year in a row, off to a really, really weak start. I guess they just don't start playing until after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Detroit there 2-3. Antoine Davis continues to score like 10 billion points a game. He's going to be fun to watch this season, although I don't think the team is good enough pieces around him for Mike Davis there in Detroit. But the upcoming schedule in the Horizon League, and circle this game here, John. Friday night, James Madison at Oakland. In order to support cancer awareness, Oakland head coach Greg Kampe is dyeing his hair pink for the game.
Yeah, I believe he did get enough, retweets to make that happen.
He did. So if you want to see Kampe with pink hair, tune into that game. Otherwise, David, what else are you watching for this conference?
Northern Kentucky, who we were kind of phrasing, going to UCF. That's a really good test for them. They're off to a good start, but they haven't played in a game like that yet. And then you can speak to it. This game on Friday, this Cleveland State-Ohio State game, I was up in Columbus, and we were talking to Kyle Lamb. You cannot believe the buzz around Columbus right now. Everybody getting very fired up, camping out all for this Cleveland State game. So kind of a surprise there.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking a lot about Cleveland. Even tonight, I think that they were going crazy in Cleveland, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, just all over all around Columbus, people are getting really jacked for this. Yeah.
I'd also watch for one track game on Tuesday, and that's Northern Kentucky going to Morehead State, where NKU could have a bit of a letdown after the UCF game. And Morehead State has also played pretty decent against Syracuse and UConn, and also got a win out west.
All right. John, we seem to have a little bit of feedback coming from you there, a little bit of buzz, but let's get that fixed there. But let's go to the Ivy League. And after that great start by Penn, they came back down to earth pretty hard with getting crushed by Oregon State and by Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State, a very good team. Oregon State, no. I'm not totally sold on them yet. I think that there's some people that think they're pretty decent.
And as well as Penn had played right out of the gate, you were kind of expecting them to do better down in that event. I mean, at least compete and maybe even win a game. Not so.
No, but the Ivy League, nothing has told me yet that there's going to be anybody that's going to be contending for an at-large bid. I mean, we've always got to keep a look at Harvard there. Trip out to San Francisco coming up later tonight. I think that game is about to tip here as we record this. John, they're also at St. Mary's and hosting Holy Cross. But anything else in the upcoming week in the Ivy?
Unless you want to consider Princeton and Maine and Pennsylvania, Delaware State trying to pad their road records, I'd say not really.
This is a rare occasion where we get to see probably the closest school that plays NCAA college basketball to me, actually on the screen there, is Stockton University, right in my backyard here at Penn coming up on Saturday. So
all right.
They very rarely play a D1 game, so congrats to Stockton there. That's not Stockton, California. That's Stockton in Pomona, New Jersey, as opposed to Pomona College out in Stockton, California. But Metro Atlantic.
Oh boy. Dear. Grief.
I guess what we could say is Riders only played 2 games and they were our favorite. John, is that what we could say about the conference?
Well, they did have a win against Coppin State, but then again, you could say there's over 350 teams in D1 that could probably make a similar claim at some point.
Yeah, not a good start for this team. Iona the win today over Hartford, maybe the best win the conference has had so far.
Yeah, and Hartford been kind of disappointing out of the gate.
Yeah. In terms of the upcoming schedule in the Metro Atlantic, if we've got their
Canisius at Nova in some exempt event. The way Nova's been playing, they kind of need that game. Niagara hosting who we think the SWAC favorites are.
Rider at West Virginia. If Rider's got anything, and West Virginia's proven themselves beatable, maybe circle that one. Canisius at St. Bonaventure, a good rivalry game there also. Actually, I want to go back to a game, though, that happened this past week. Very interesting stat here. Siena and Holy Cross there on Friday night. I'm sorry, where was it? It was actually Sunday. Holy Cross 57, Siena 45 there.
Yeah.
This was the first game in over 20 years that neither team hit a free throw in the entire game.
Wow.
There were only 3 free throws taken in the game. This all came from KenPom. 3 free throws taken, all 3 were missed. Over 20 years since we had a game without a single free throw made. So a little history there.
Right, and to build on that, I'm glad you said that, Chad. I do have like a stat here for you.
Okay. Oh, you want to pull the screen down?
Yeah, you got to pull the screen down. And again, it was just, there is one of the things about that is that the coaches were going to go out and hire a free throw shooting expert, and here he is in the person, Andy Hindurahan from George Mason University.
A free throw shooting expert. I did not know that.
Yes.
Handy Hindurahan. He's also selling ads to Comfort Inn down there. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, I guess he is.
He does everything.
I guess he is. The exposure Handy's getting from our podcast is starting to pay off, I suppose. He's selling it.
He must be. Maybe he's sponsored by Comfort Inn.
Yeah. Maybe he is.
But I think going back to the Metro Atlantic, Lee Del Vecchio would be very disappointed in us if we don't mention the Marist game with the SFA, because the Red Foxes actually had a 10-point lead with 2 minutes 40 seconds to go and still ended up losing by 4 in regulation. So huge run by the Lumberjacks at the end of that game.
Not only losing by 4 in regulation, they had a shot to tie with a 3 with about 3 seconds left and called timeout. Of course, they were out of timeouts at the time, so that was it for the game.
Yeah.
But Mid-American Conference, as we mentioned, that team that begins with a B and ends with an Uffalo is not under the radar because they're, as you can see in the far right column, they are in both of the top 25 polls right now. But what about the rest of the conference, and specifically, what about this Toledo team, David?
Toledo, I mean, I wasn't big on them on opening night. I know you were huge on them coming into the year, but getting a really nice win against what I thought was a good UC Irvine team and winning the event. Again, 100 people watched it. They paid their $24 for exclusive rights to the tournament. I hope they thought it was worth it.
John, other than Toledo and the B Uffalo team, anybody else that you've really looked at here in this conference?
Oh, I think we mentioned one of those teams earlier in the week, and that was at Eastern Michigan, scoring a grand total of 4 points in the first half against Rutgers.
4 points. Wow. I mean, we talked about it in the Hoops HT report. We don't need to go over it again.
It was incredible.
Funny thing is that they tied the record for fewest points scored in any half ever, and that tie was with Northern Illinois, who was held to 4 points a few years back.
Was it 4 or 5? I thought
4 in the second half.
Okay.
A few years back by Eastern Michigan. So Eastern Michigan now on both ends of the record there for the 4 points. Don't think they wanted to be on that one, though. Upcoming schedule here, let's take a look at what this Toledo team at least has coming up for this week. And
how about Kent State going to Vanderbilt, getting a nice test there?
Toledo hosting North Alabama not till next Wednesday, though. That's their only game here.
Yeah, against a transitional team. So I like their chances of improving to 4-1 against D1.
Might be an interesting game here on Saturday. Detroit at Eastern Michigan. Just Eastern Michigan, how do they bounce back from the 4-point half and Detroit, with Mike Davis and all that. But let's take a look at the MEAC.
Okay.
Game of the people.
And the only story I think that exists in the MEAC, I know Howard's out to a very nice 4-1 start, only 1-1 against D1.
Yeah.
Savannah State, David.
Yeah, the team of the people, and again, one of the only one of the very few teams in this league to win a D1 game, struggling tonight, but doing very well, outperforming a lot of other teams whose boards are not shutting them down and forcing them to transfer down or retransition.
Retransition down. They should not do it. Hashtag Save the Tigers. Retweeted everybody. Upcoming week, Savannah State at Alcorn State, and then they can make a lot of noise.
That's a winnable game.
A lot of noise Tuesday at Vanderbilt. Yeah.
Yeah. So that they can win that one. They can pick up their second D1 win of the year, get one on the road. That's a very winnable game for them.
But I'll give you a spoiler alert. If we are looking for one under the radar game involving Savannah State, circle the one on Sunday where they go to Liberty.
Oh, they got back-to-back games at Alcorn and Liberty. That must be part of an event, I guess here.
Yep, and also 3 games in 4 days because they also go to Vandy on Tuesday.
I think that's just their schedule.
All right. Okay. Well, that's what you get. Okay. Missouri Valley Conference. As we record this, there's about 7 minutes left in the game, and Bradley is up 4 on Penn State in the championship game at the Cancun Challenge. Bradley, I've been very impressed with this team and the start they've been off to. Very nice win over SMU in the first game of that event also, David.
Yeah, it was. So a team, at least I wasn't all that excited about coming into the year, but they've shown their worth so far.
Yeah, and John, you liked them heading into the season. I got to give you credit for that one. John?
Good. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, say that last part again.
I thought you liked Bradley heading into the season. I was giving you credit for it. You weren't responding, so I'll take the credit back.
No, I'll take credit for it. Another one of the up-and-coming programs that Brian Wardle has also been leading the charge. Let's not forget he had also done some decent work at Green Bay prior to his trip down to Peoria.
Illinois State got the win today over Boise State. Also beat Akron in their event. David, I think they're starting to bounce back from their losses early on. I guess we also got Southern Illinois. We got to discuss a little here.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And then, Southern Illinois again. I mean, and their losses were to Kentucky and somebody else that was really big. So, I mean, it was sort of forgivable. And again, you were expecting them to maybe win one of those, but I think they've bounced back from it.
And Loyola Chicago loses. I guess it didn't make the screen there, but they did lose that game to Boston College tonight. Also, that's
kind of surprising that they did. I know that Joby likes BC, but all the reason to not like BC.
But either a nice performance by BC, or maybe Loyola's just just doesn't have it this year. Other upcoming games for this week: Illinois State, a big test against Lindenwood. But
you're throwing around big test pretty liberally there.
But actually, what you can see there coming up Tuesday and Wednesday, that is the Mountain West Missouri Valley Conference Challenge games there Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's actually a huge week coming up for the Valley.
I know it seemed like Northern Iowa are usually world beaters in November and December, but will Utah State move the needle for this conference?
But we do need to circle that Nevada Loyola Chicago game should be a good one. BYU Illinois State has a chance to be a good one. I don't know what other ones. Southern Illinois at Colorado State, tough place to play at least.
Yeah.
Indiana State, San Jose State. David, you're going to be the only person in the world watching that game.
Oh, the trees! I'm not missing my trees.
The trees on that atrocious court at San Jose.
Yeah,
with the giant cartoon don't watch it. Just don't watch it.
Yeah, just like I said about a game the other day, you know what? Watch something else.
Northeast Conference. Fairleigh Dickinson up to a 3-1 start, including a big road win at Princeton tonight, cross-state rivalry.
Yeah, kind of a big surprise there. Like, I know we never really know what to expect from this. We did like the Blackbirds coming into the year, but Fairleigh Dickinson looking as good as anyone.
Not a bad follow-up game against their win at home against NYIT. Not to be confused with former Team of the People, NJIT.
Yeah, you don't want to confuse those two.
Mount St. Mary's losing at home to North Carolina A&T, so we can forget about them. Upcoming schedule.
And speaking of NJIT, a game at LIU Brooklyn is also going to be worth watching.
Yeah.
There we go. But David, I know we've got to really circle this Pine Manor at Central Connecticut game. Can we get Lee Del Vecchio out there for that one?
Yeah, we're dispatching Lee Del Vecchio to that one. I will pay for his ticket. His credential will be waiting at will call.
All right. Let's just keep going on here. We'll talk a lot more Northeast and more in depth when we get into conference play. But the Ohio Valley Conference, that finally get to number one in the net, number one in the RPI, number one in the strength of schedule, number one in the KPI, although two of those three are everybody's number one in. The Belmont Bruins, an incredible start to the season, all because of that Lipscomb win and what Lipscomb's done from it, I think. With these numbers.
Right. Well, they're the only team that's beaten Lipscomb, and look at who Lipscomb's beaten. So that just blows it up early. It'll start to come back to normal. Murray State earlier this week beat a team that I didn't even know had a team.
Huge win over Spalding. John, did you watch that one?
No, I was watching the thriller the night before by Tennessee State against Carver Bible.
Carver Bible. Oh, jeez.
Yes. So when you look at this league and when you look at Belmont,
let's take a closer look at them. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, go ahead and pull up Belmont. One of the problems is the rest of the league is not winning really at all. And is there enough there? Is there any margin of error at all? Do they need to win the UCLA and Purdue game in order to have any shot at getting in without winning the conference tournament?
Well, I'll tell you what, there are quality games coming up there. The Lipscomb and Western Kentucky games at home as well are going to be quality wins if they get those. Those are just home wins.
Yeah.
If you can pick up one of those two, UCLA, Purdue, but you also can't slip up at Green Bay, at Samford. You've got non-conference road tests that being in road games, they will help you, but they are road tests, so they're a lot tougher to win.
Sanford off to a better start than we thought. Kennesaw's pretty weak, but still, like if you're an at-large caliber team, a top 40 consensus team, you pretty much need to win all three of those.
Well, considering a team like Sanford is 4-1 at the moment, that's going to keep Belmont's metrics up, assuming they were to win that one.
Yeah. But when you look at this, Jack State underperforming. Tennessee Tech, I don't think, has won a game yet. Moorhead just won D1 win. Eastern Kentucky kind of rebuilding. Is there enough there? I mean, Murray State's looking pretty good because it's going to drag them down. It's going to drag their metrics down. And we don't really know what the NET, how the NET is going to grade that just yet because we know the variables. We don't know exactly how it works. And we don't know how the committee is going to react to that. But this is a really good Belmont team.
It is, but you look at some of the variables in the net are offensive and defensive efficiency. You can see Ken Palm's offensive and defensive efficiency. They don't use his numbers; they use their own metrics. But I mean, nothing special in those types of numbers. And I think that may show you a lot lower net than we're thinking right now.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at what's coming up for both Belmont and Murray and the rest of this conference here. And there it is. And Belmont, we already mentioned at Kennesaw. Anything else you're looking forward to, John, here this week? We mentioned a couple of those Moorhead State games against NKU and Lipscomb already.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Tennessee Tech does not lose at home by 68 against Winthrop because that was their deficit at Michigan State the other day.
Oof.
101-33.
Yeah, Murray at Alabama Monday. David, is that a potential for an upset?
I think it is. Alabama looks a little better than I thought this year, but so has Murray State. I'm not going to go so far as to say that I expect them to beat Alabama, but they certainly are good enough to do it.
All right. SIU Edwardsville, by the way, right now in overtime with Valparaiso. So.
Oh, right. So that
game should be on ESPN matters.
Missouri Valley.
Well, I'm watching it. Why aren't you?
Because I'm watching Bradley Penn State.
Patriot League, Lehigh out to a nice 4-1 start. They also beat Princeton as well as picked up a road.
He's getting into the act.
I picked up a road win tonight at Siena, and another Ken Palm State stat here. Congrats to Siena on that loss. Became number 353 in tempo in the nation. So not a good Siena team there.
Right.
Can't hit free throws. Can't even shoot a free throw. But back to the Patriot League, David. Anything else you've seen out of this league so far?
I was big on American for their first win, but don't know if I think that may have just been one good night and not indicative of how they're going to look the rest of the way. Boston U also getting the big win at Northeastern early, but kind of schizophrenic since then. Bucknell not as good as what we're used to seeing, and then Loyola Chicago, good grief, just not off to a good start.
Loyola Chicago and Loyola Maryland and all the Loyolas. And
yeah, okay, I'm glad you picked up on that too.
But in all seriousness, I think we need to be celebrating with some Papa Ginos because Holy Cross actually got 3 wins during the week, including the previously unbeaten Stony Brook Seawolves.
I got to give Sleeka credit. He just brought a Papa Gino's pizza here from Worcester, Massachusetts. Hey, I mean, how can you pull that one up? How can we top that one? Sleeka, you want to discuss the upcoming week here, including can BU score more than 4 points in the first half at Rutgers on Friday night?
I'm sure they'll be able to do that on Friday, and other than that, I'm not seeing too much in the way here.
Yeah, kind of a week. I mean, maybe Holy Cross at Harvard on Wednesday. I don't know. Let's just go on to another conference.
Yeah.
Let's move on to. Oh, we already talked about the Southern Conference. We don't need to talk about them again. How about the Southland?
Yeah. Can we just talk about the SoCon again?
You can talk about them again. I want to talk about the fact that Abilene Christian is one of about 50 undefeated teams left in the nation.
Yeah, recent transitional team out to a 2-0 against D1 competition.
A road win up there at Denver. So yeah, congratulations.
Not a bad Denver team. Not a good one, but still kind of a surprise there for Abilene Christian getting that one.
And maybe SFA with that big comeback win against Marist we discussed earlier, maybe that could kind of get them moving a little bit here because they've been a little disappointing so far. Haven't looked that great. I know they are 3-1.
Yeah.
John, the upcoming week in the Southland is a bunch of games by games, and
I'm guessing
don't
lightning
know.
is not going to strike twice for St. Edwards, not at Stephen F. Austin.
No, I don't even know what to do with this conference. John, why don't I let you talk about a different conference? How about, this is something even better than the Southland for you.
Well, okay. The count, if you're looking, it's up to 4. We were wondering if it would get to 10. Will it get to 10? Will this conference win 10 out of conference D1 games?
Yeah, Prairie View gave East Carolina a heck of a game tonight. They were in there most of the way, but the Pirates pulled it out late and went on a bit of a run with about 5 minutes left in that game.
Yeah.
I thought we might have another one tonight, though, with the Panthers again picking up their second one.
I would say even Mississippi Valley State, good to see them get a win non-conference, because I think the past 2 or 3 years they've been coming into conference play winless in D1 competition, but not this year.
And a little bit disappointing, David, though, Grambling, our preseason pick, failed to score even triple digits against Champion Baptist. I mean, Champion Baptist has been the wrong end of 170-point games before, haven't they?
Sure. Have they?
Aren't they one of those teams that everybody blows out early this season?
Well, sure.
Kind of like Toccoa Falls, but
kind of like Grambling.
like Grambling. Upcoming week, Prairie View at Georgia Tech, Grambling at Niagara. I don't know. Texas.
Is there a win anywhere on here?
Wiley at Southern.
It's not going to be Alcorn State hosting Savannah State.
No, it's going to be Mississippi Valley hosting Rust College.
There we go. That is a win.
It's not a D1 win, but it's a great game.
I don't know that there is a D1 win on this list here.
Okay, maybe next week.
If there is one, maybe Grambling Niagara is the game to circle there, actually.
Yeah.
John, the Summit League, and talk about disappointing teams so far. I know they are 5-2 overall, but 2 losses we did not expect for the Jackrabbits.
I think more was expected out of South Dakota State, but losing to the Green Smurfs against Tulane, that's not a good sign. But they did rebound a little bit with wins against UT San Antonio and Colorado State, but not really going to move the needle.
I think it's the Gulf Coast loss that David, I just can't get over, even worse than the Tulane loss.
Right, even though it was a true road game, and when it happened, you're like, okay, everybody stubs their toe. They just can't do it again, and then they did it again.
Of course, North Dakota after a big 1-1 D1 start in their first year in the Summit League. So congrats on you to playing a bunch of non-D1 schools.
But if you want to talk about the once mighty falling, North Dakota State going down to Incarnate Word.
Yeah, not good.
Incarnate Word lost tonight bad at home to Northern Colorado. Summit League upcoming games here. South Dakota State after that rough trip, I guess are they even playing this week? I guess not.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to watch. North Dakota's at Utah
there's
Valley,
one
Montana
game to watch.
State.
There is a Front Range game. There is a Front Range game
next Wednesday, David.
Yes, Northern Colorado at Denver. We love the Front Range.
Okay, let's go on to how about the Sun Belt Conference? This is a conference I do want to spend a few minutes on because we've got 2 teams that have been very impressive so far here. Undefeated Georgia Southern, and then Georgia State completely demolished Georgia tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the score. It's way down here. 91-67.
Yeah, absolutely blew them up. It was never even a game. And we thought that they would be good. We'd actually been kind of disappointed going out to Montana, not winning. Not that that's a bad loss, but, I mean, it would have been an impressive win. And then, but really turning it around today in a game that had to have been fun for them, playing against an in-state foe.
And yeah, John, you mentioned already Georgia Southern already with the win over Montana. A real nice start to the season for Georgia Southern as well.
Yeah, they were also going to be one of the favorites coming into the season, and Tookie Brown certainly has not disappointed for the Eagles.
Upcoming this week in the Sun Belt, we've got, I guess we'll talk about the Georgia schools here. Nothing until next week when Georgia State is at Tulane, I guess.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I'm looking forward to that one.
Not much else to watch here, though, is there?
We will not we will not be talking about Appalachian State after their 0-3 week.
Oh, they had a overtime game against somebody pretty good, didn't they? Who was it the other night they took to overtime, David?
Alabama?
No, what they didn't go to OT with Alabama, did they?
That's right. That was prior to their tournament.
Yeah, they went to overtime with somebody. I don't know who it was. Was it the Ball State game, maybe? Who knows? We're not very good at this podcast. But anyhow.
If you're watching it, you really need to find another podcast.
What you should do is go look up scores yourself and not ask us. Western Athletic Conference. John, you're impressed with New Mexico State. Nice road win at New Mexico in their big rivalry game, correct?
Yeah, that was the first leg of the Land of Enchantment rivalry, and then they'll have the upcoming game against their other rival, UTEP, coming later this week.
David, I mean, are we going to have – is New Mexico State good enough to be there? I thought we expect them to take a step back this year.
Well, I think the answer is yes. I mean, given how they've played so far. And look at – I mean, what's anybody else in the league really done? At Grand Canyon, 3-1, but they've been winning bye games. New Mexico State winning games of a higher caliber.
Grand Canyon started their exemptive event Thanksgiving here, playing Seton Hall in the first round. Maybe the Lopes can make a little bit of noise here.
Yeah, and we're certainly pulling for them. We're big fans of the Lopes here. But
on that note, I guess let's move on to our top 10 list, which I don't think we screwed up.
Right.
Let's start.
It's taken us 3 weeks, but I think we got it right this time.
We all voted properly.
Yeah.
At number 10 on the top 10 list is Georgia Southern. We just discussed them.
Oh, okay. We're starting at 10 and going up this week.
Yes, we were doing it the right way.
Right.
Now,
yeah, I like them. Good pick. Bradley, I didn't vote for them, but I can't say I'm against them being
especially as we record this. Looks like they're going to win against Penn State, and so you all should have voted for them, so you can thank me for that.
Right. Well, I voted for them now that they're winning against Penn State. Real nice win down in Cancun, winning the event, the Bradley Braves. I think this team should be higher and will get higher by the end of the year, but like Louisiana Tech.
Above Louisiana Tech, coming at number 7, we've got UC Irvine. Despite the loss today, we still like them in the top 10. I don't think it was a horrible loss by any means, even though it was to another under-the-radar school.
Yeah.
And Georgia State.
Yeah.
Talk about beating up on Georgia and going up in the ratings.
Yeah. Man. So, they're going to have a big year. Ron Hunter has done a fantastic job there. Western Kentucky, another fun team, doing it the right way. Just buddies there. Toledo.
A significant win against West Virginia.
Real nice win for Toledo against UC Irvine tonight. So you got to give the Rockets credit, and they are pretty good.
Number 3 here, Belmont. We love this team, what we've seen from them so far.
Yeah.
Although it's mostly based upon a win over the team that actually beat them out for number 2.
Yeah. So Lipscomb higher in the rankings, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, if you're the committee, if you look at the body of work, Lipscomb's is probably better, even though Belmont beat them. But 2 really good teams, and they're going to play again here in a couple weeks.
And I don't think there's going to be much suspense over who's number 1.
Furman.
There they are, the Furman Paladins at Loyola Chicago, at Villanova. What can you say? We've got some honorable mentions I didn't throw up. Let's throw those on the screen now also.
Okay.
Radford, Southern Illinois, Marshall, Northern Kentucky, New Mexico State, College of Charleston, and Antoine Davis.
Oh, okay. But not. I thought we might see Handy up there. Maybe in a different week.
Well, maybe next week. Not making the honorable mentions, but probably should have also. What about the Tigers movement here?
The Save the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be working on that.
By the way, on Davis here, I grabbed them here. These are his point totals so far in 5 games this season for Detroit. 32, 30, an off game against Butler. He only scored 20. 42, 32.
So he's leading the nation in scoring.
He's been insane so far.
And you should play those numbers in your next lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to play 30 twice, but go for it. On that note, though, let's pull this down here. Let's go through. And anything else you want to discuss? Any other final thoughts? John, let me start with you.
Normally, beating Washington State would not be a win of significance, but if you're a team like Seattle who got to host them midweek, it was their first win against the Cougars since, I want to say, 1977. So congratulations to the Red Hawks on their victory.
They even
Nice.
been in D1 that long? Wow.
Well, they were out of D1 for a while and then rejoined.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Because keep in mind, when Elgin Baylor played for Seattle, and I think it was the 50s, they were actually a Final Four team.
Yeah, I know that. I remember that now. Well, it was before my time, but I remember here that they were there.
All right, David giving away his age. He's not ancient. David,
Right.
any other final thoughts from you?
Just one more. And every year there's teams at the end of November that we're really excited about under the radar. And even as late as January and February, we're talking about 5 or 6 of them landing inside the bubble. As good as it's been for Belmont, Lipscomb, and Furman, and maybe 1 or 2 others, it is really, really hard for under the radar schools to land inside the bubble. Even teams that get big wins out of conference, they're forced into a situation to where the best they can hope for is to not screw up and blow their chances in league play. And it's kind of hard to get up for game after game after game when there isn't so much to be gained as much as it is, well, I hope we don't lose and screw things up. But nevertheless, it's really important. If teams from under the radar conferences are going to get inside the bubble, this 6-week period of the season is when they basically have to do it.
Right. Well, I guess on that note, and I agree with you completely on that, and we want to wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving. We want to make certain that you come back and join us again next week. We're back Monday night with a Hoops HD report. We'll be discussing more about college basketball unicorns in Memphis and all the rest. And I'm Chad Sherwood. That's John Salika. That's David Griggs, or at least a picture of him.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay.